A very good afternoon and welcome to this news update. My name is Ken Mijungu. Now, former television star Esther Runga will not spend time in jail following her conviction for being an accessory after the fact in manslaughter case of her 3-year-old son, Sinclair Timberlake. Now, Esther Runga Timberlake, age 38, was handed a 10-month sentence by Justice Martin Ban of the Brisbane Supreme Court earlier today, but was immediately released on parole. Her conviction and sentence came after she admitted to having misled the police investigating the death of Sinclair by stating that her son fell down from the stairs leading to his death. Esther admitted to having lied to help her husband Quincy Timberlake escape punishment. She also told the court that she lied because she was afraid of the husband, that's Quincy Timberlake. Well, that is good news to a lot of Esther Runga's fans and the people who are looking forward to positive outcome from the court. Let's move on now. And the High Court has directed senators to send their petition challenging the enactment of 24 laws in the National Assembly to the Chief Justice so that he can form a three-judge bench to hear that matter. The legislators marched from Parliament buildings all through to the Milimani Law Courts to protest the decision just a day after they had announced plans to publish their own division of revenue bill. The senators are also opposed to some 26 bills they say have been passed by the National Assembly minus their input. And in their submission before the court, the senators said that the delays in approving the division of revenue bill has crippled operation in the counties. They say that most of the county assemblies have also been unable to pass their own budgets.
There has been an attempt to emasculate the counties and the institutions that have been established by the Constitution to ensure the well-being of the counties. Kenyans, that is number 6, Kenyans have been denied their constitutional right of public participation in a bicameral environment. And 7th, the Constitution has been interpreted and applied in a narrow, restrictive and prejudicial manner.
All right, and there was swift reaction. 2 members of parliament from Western Kenya have accused counties of pilfering resources allocated to them, and therefore they say they do not need that increased allocation they are seeking. And Ndebes legislator Robert Pukose and his Kwanza counterpart Ferdinand Wanyonyi maintain that several counties have been riddled with corruption cases and failure by the governors to account for monies that have been allocated to their counties.
Naona juzi wanaenda kufanya demonstration. Bwana governor mzima anasimama atafanya demonstration. Bwana hiyo sasa hiyo hapana. Hatutakubali hiyo. Pesa ambayo tumewapatia is enough. They should be able to account for what we have given to them. Ndio upewe pesa nyingine.
Kuna massive corruption kwa counties. Yeah? Hata zile little resources, unajua ile resources unaangalia tu ni ile pesa inaletwa from national government. But ile pesa counties ina generate. County yetu ya Trans Nzoia tumeambiwa ina generate pesa kiasi gani? Nani amewahi ku account for that money and the other counties? Iko shida kwa upande ya MCS wetu. Okay? Because their oversight role, they are not playing it.
Now, away from that story, the government has been urged to create more employment opportunities for the pharmaceutical technologists and remunerate them well in an effort to professionalize the industry. Speaking on the sidelines of the 16th Annual Scientific Conference in Mombasa, bringing together 1,000 delegates, Mount Kenya University founder and chairman, Professor Simon Gisharu, said there was an urgent need for both levels of the government to invest in healthcare. He also called on institutions of higher learning offering medical courses to invest heavily in training so as to churn out a qualified lot capable of treating the masses. The country has about 13,000 pharmaceutical technologists, with Mount Kenya University accounting for 10% of the number, having produced over 1,000 of them so far.
By the World Health Organization. The requisite numbers is one pharmaceutical personnel to support 1,000 people. But when you look at the number of trained personnel in Kenya, they are about 13,000. So if you do the ratio of the Kenyan population, which is about 47.5 million, to 13,000, then you will find the ratio is about 1 to 4,000. So that is really very inadequate.
Now, family in Makueni is struggling to understand what it claims is a mysterious disease that affects its members once they attain the age of 20. While none of their daughters have sought medical attention, one son who attended a medical camp in Machakos claims he was found with a muscular condition that affects his lower limbs.
Justin Kelly's life is resigned to a wheelchair. Without the help, he remains bedridden. All his siblings have a similar medical condition. At the age of 60, their mother Katinda Mudhenya has no option but to take care of her children just as she did when they were young. According to one of the daughters, the lower limbs lost their sense of touch once they hit the age of 20, and as they aged, it got worse.
Kutembea ni shida, siwezi tembea vizuri. The
family says that due to lack of finances, they have not sought proper medical attention from a specialist who can diagnose the condition.
Akaanza kuwa ana nguvu miguu. Wa pili alikuwa ameanza kuwa mgonjwa tu. Anapelekwa hospitali, anatibiwa, akirudishwa hapa nyumbani, mwili hauna nguvu.
Na huko hospitali nilielezwa kwamba hii ugonjwa ni mbaya sana kwa sababu unaendelea na kudhoofisha viungo vya miguu mpaka ikafika kwa kifua, alafu mtu aishe.
While the patriarch of the home, Mudhenya Muema, died, the family seems to have lost hope in their situation, turning to neighbors for help. Frustrations have led the afflicted family to seek the services of a traditional herbal healer in a bid to appease the gods, hoping against all odds they can be cured. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Well, the government is targeting to have 40% sanitation coverage by the year 2022. Currently, about 5 million Kenyans are practicing open defecation, a habit that threatens to spread waterborne disease. Now, this was announced at a meeting that brought together stakeholders in the water and sanitation sector as the country prepares to host a sanitation conference from the 28th to the 31st of October, where over 700 delegates are expected to attend. Now, the theme of that conference is sanitation for all. The government and the private sector will be deliberating on ways to ensure there is access to affordable clean water as well as sanitation services in order to prevent waterborne diseases.
Because improved sanitation will reduce cholera, worms, and diarrhea, which we have been told that we lose over almost 89,000 people every year because of this. The statistics in Kenya, 12% or 6 million Kenyans out of our 50 million population are exercising open defecation. Siaya and Kitui and Busia have actually overcome that challenge. I want to see the next county joining the open defecation free county. That we have toilets, we have dignity in how our people run.
Right, what a campaign in 2019. We're still talking about that. Now, 2 people were arrested from their premises for discharging raw waste water into sewers in Machakos County following an inspection by the National Environment Management Authority, that's NEMA. Now, NEMA launched a crackdown on factories polluting rivers across Machakos County. Most of the rivers affected by dumping of industrial waste are in Athi River, Mavoko, and Mlolongo sub-counties. River Athi, which acts as the main source of water for thousands of residents in the lower western regions for both domestic and irrigation use, is also contaminated.
We have managed to arrest 2 culprits, some of whom have been discharging effluent without an effluent discharge license, others who are discharging untreated or raw effluent to the aquatic environment.
Nice. Now all systems go for the official commissioning of Lake Turkana wind power project tomorrow by President Uhuru Kenyatta, which at a cost of 81 billion shillings is the single largest private sector investment in the country. The Kenya Electricity Transmission Company has refuted claims that taxpayers took a financial hit when the completion of the line to evacuate power from the wind farm was delayed following the bankruptcy of the project's main contractor from Spain. Now, Lake Turkana Wind Power Project is the largest wind farm in Africa and comprises of 365 turbines on 40,000 acres of land in Loyangalani, that's in Marsabit County, with a target output of 310 megawatts.
Since it commenced operations on the 25th of September 2018, Lake Turkana Wind Power has produced 1.2 billion kilowatt hours into the grid, achieving an average capacity factor in excess of 63%.
No, we didn't have any penalties. What happened is the government of Kenya negotiated with Lake Turkana for a moratorium of 12 months. So basically, there were no DG payments. If we had not completed the line by 31st of August last year, then you can be sure we could have had DG payments.
Right, let's cross the border. And a grieving Canadian man who lost his family in the crash of Boeing 737 MAX in Ethiopia in March told the U.S. Congress Wednesday that his life had no meaning anymore and that the aircraft manufacturers' practices, he termed them as shameful. Paul Njoroge, whose wife, 3 children and mother-in-law died in the March 10th Ethiopian Airlines disaster, testified before the Congress on the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure Aviation during a hearing of the state of the aviation safety.
In a tear-provoking statement, Paul Njoroge stood bravely before a U.S. Congress subcommittee on Wednesday as he narrated the destruction that the Boeing 737 crash left behind when it killed all 157 people on board, including his wife, 3 children, and his mother-in-law. As the first relative to testify on the crash, Njoroge also accused Boeing of trying to take attention away from the flawed system that also claimed 189 lives in the MAX 8 crash in October last year.
On April 4th, 3 weeks after the deaths of my family, in what I have since learned is a shameful pattern of behavior by Boeing and airplane manufacturers, Boeing shifted focus from the root cause of the crashes, which is the design flaws in the 737 MAX and MCAS, and started talking about foreign pilot error. This distracted from correcting the real causes of the crashes and is an insult to humanity.
The congressional hearings follow the global grounding of U.S. manufacturers Boeing's MAX fleet after the Ethiopian crash and an earlier Lion Air MAX disaster in Indonesia. A total of 346 people died in the 2 crashes. The company has been widely criticized over its development of the 737 MAX, with the hearings focused on the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, a flight handling system linked to both crashes. In both crashes, the MCAs pointed the plane sharply downward based on a faulty sensor reading, hindering the pilot's efforts to control the aircraft after takeoff, according to preliminary crash investigations.
We demand that simulator training be required. Recertification must take place in combination with a full legislative fix for the aviation safety system. The FAA clearly needs a budget sufficient to fulfill safety obligations.
He further stated that his life has no meaning as he replays the horror his family must have faced in their final moments.
All right, back home now, and residents of Chakama location in Magarini sub-county want the government to show them their pieces of land in that area. Now, this comes barely 2 years after more than 170 title deeds were issued by President Kenyatta to residents of the Chakama settlement scheme. According to the residents, only 100 title deeds were given to them and the rest were given to outsiders.
According to the Chakama residents, the issuance of title deeds that was done 2 years ago was skewed to favor non-locals. The locals say since the documents were issued, they have not been able to locate their specific pieces of land.
Wale watu walio wanauza. Ta mimi tayari hii nilikuwa naiuza. Kwa sababu sijui pale ilipo na ina miaka.
The residents also claim that some names were omitted from the original list of beneficiaries and replaced by outsiders, arguing that the outsiders were located fertile lands along the river Sabaki while residents were pushed to the dry parts.
Kilichofanya mpaka hizi karatasi zikatolewa mapema na haikufanywa vile tulikuwa tunataka. Ilikuwa kumekuja wakati wa kampeni.
Mtu anauza kwa sababu hajui mahali ambapo ile title yake imelalia ni wapi. Sasa ukija na yule ofisa wa usorovea atakuja kukwambia wewe plot yako iko Mwangea na hapa ulipo ni kwa Njoroge.
The residents claim that a list of 170 people was drafted and residents signed it, but only 100 of them got the titles, while the rest were denied. The residents now want the government to come clear on the issue and help them get the correct information. Nayoma Sampao, NTV.
Well, yesterday marked Kenya's premiere of the highly anticipated Disney movie, The Lion King. The new rendition involves live action, effects, and star actors such as Beyonce and Daniel Glover. Now, though the movie was inspired by the Kenya's Hell's Gate National Park, local actors have raised concern over the many filming restrictions imposed by the government, which hinder international movie filmmakers from doing it in Kenya, as Anita Nkonge now reports.
A movie that is nostalgic for many and one that has put Kenya on the map, with many of the scenes inspired by our very own landscapes. Actors and stakeholders alike are now calling on the government to remove filming restrictions in a bid to promote homegrown inspired films.
The Lion King movie first appeared on screens 25 years ago, with many of its key scenes inspired by Hell's Gate National Park and the Great Rift Valley. This is where the famous Pride Rock that is seen
to nothing but the best in news, conversation starters, and hard.
Beautiful. I felt like I was reliving my childhood again in 3D because
it just brings out the Kenyan culture, the animals. It's a really good way to showcase what we have in Kenya.
I really love this version because at least we can enjoy our culture as Africans.
The distinct magical Kenya logo was even spotted in the backdrop as famous stars stood for pictures during the London premiere of the movie. However, though the movie is inspired by Kenya and brings promise of more, the filming restrictions put in place here have been making it increasingly difficult for interested stakeholders to film in the country. The Kenya Film Classification Board has been infamously known for implementing film licensing rules that hurt efforts to sell Kenya as an attractive filming destination and, as a result, ward off would-be investors.
Local government needs to understand, the more we shoot as Kenyans in our country and tell those stories abroad, the more we'll have tourism, and it's a good starter for the industry.
We need more incentive. We need more incentives than people coming from abroad to come film here. It's very, very expensive to film here as a Kenyan. A quarter of my budget goes to license alone. Lower the license fee, number one, and make it easier for us. Create distribution channels. We don't have any distribution channels. Once I make my movie, I don't know where to take it.
In this year's financial bill for the Nairobi County, for example, to shoot for one day at Uhuru Park is 5,000 Kenyan shillings. For commercial video shooting, it is 10,000 Kenyan shillings per day. According to the Kenya Film Classification Board, it costs 15,000 Kenyan shillings to shoot a short film per day. Anita Nkonge, NTV.
Well, very good observations from the stakeholders, and Anita Nkonge, I'm so jealous of you. You had to watch it first, but still there. Let's cross the borders now. The World Health Organization has declared the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, quote, a public health emergency of international concern. A rare designation only used for the gravest epidemics. The declaration comes amid unrest amongst citizens of Goma City, where the latest case was reported. The Ebola outbreak has killed more than 1,600 people in DRC alone, out of more than 2,500 cases since August of last year.
This week saw a patient diagnosed with the virus in provincial capital Goma, the first case in a major urban hub. The Goma patient has been described as an evangelical preacher who traveled to Goma from Butembo, one of the towns hardest hit by Ebola.
Although there is no evidence yet of local transmission in either Goma or Uganda, these two events represent a concerning geographical expansion of the virus. As a result of this concern for potential further spread, the committee recommended that I declare the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern, FIC, and I have accepted that advice.
WHO has held off on making the emergency declaration on 3 previous occasions, but the confirmation of a case in North Kivu's capital, Goma, escalated the crisis.
Our risk assessment remains that the risk of spread in DRC and the region remains very high, and the risk of spread outside the region remains low.
In addition to Ebola, the citizens of Goma City are facing insecurity. Hundreds of residents took to the streets to demonstrate against the recurrent insecurity in the area. The demonstration comes after 2 people were killed by bandits on Tuesday evening following a kidnapping that went wrong.
Sie tunaandamana juu tunaangalia wanatuzarau na inakuwa mentfa watu ni kukufa hakuna solution wanatutilia defense pale ya la polisi tunakosa kama ni kusekirize watu.
Demonstrators walked around carrying the lifeless body of one of the victims on a homemade stretcher. The residents claim that the police have not been conducting investigations despite their complaints on outsiders who have caused the deaths of residents.
Right, time now for some sports, and Brian Otwal is in studio. Now it's less than 36 hours to the finals of AFCON. Let's hear what Brian has, Brian.
All right, thank you so much, Ken. The final is tomorrow, but first, third place happened last night, and Odion Igalo scored the only goal as Nigeria beat Tunisia 1-0 in that third place playoff at the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. Igalo, who is the tournament's top scorer with 5 goals, tapped in after keeper Moise
that keep you informed for the day ahead.
Happened early, 6 on the nose. These people don't sleep. Fix first the data protection law, then we come up with the number.
Exactly my question to CS Joe Mushero.
Welcome to Living with Us. I'm your host, Sharon Mondia. Boy, have you missed out.
Stop your wheel. Game done.
Thank you for joining us on NTV today.
We have our reporters in different locations.
NTV is right here to bring you everything from the beginning to the end.
Hii ni NTV Sasa.
Kuna mambo mengi sana ambayo yanafanyika.
Sasa ni kumtuliza. Hii inaitwa sensory integration.
Shughuli pevu ya kudunda viwanjani narejea kwake
na kurudisha hapa studioni.
Kuna mengi ambayo yanaendelea kujiri katika maeneo tofauti.
Tunavyoelewa wanasema nini? Vimeundwa.
NTV in the morning. All you need to know to start your day.
Ilizae kama ajalema.
Serikali leta dawa gani?
It's almost a year, nothing has been done.
I just need some form of information.
Dr. Mugo Wairimu first hit the headlines when a video clip showing him raping an unconscious female patient in his clinic.
Wale wanaohusika pia wanajulikana lakini hawashikwi.
With the puzzle surrounding the sugar saga yet to be cleared.
How many times were you sexually abused?
Like 3 times.
How was a convicted child molester allowed to set up a children's home in the country?
NTV News. Bold, balance, authoritative.
The governing body executive committee, if approved, the proposal will see Samura take charge for at least 6 months from 1st August with her team responsible for carrying out a full forensic audit of CAF. All right, moving on, the national under-20 rugby lost 34-48 to Japan at the ongoing World Cup under-20 tournament. That is last night in Brazil. Chipu will play Canada for the 5th place on Saturday as Japan takes on Portugal in the final. Polodera's Chargers finished 3rd in Pool A with 5 points, 3 ahead of Brazil, while Japan won the group with 15 points as Uruguay settled for 2nd with 11. In other matches played on the last...
Where are we headed as a country? Every time we make a step forward, we do 2 backwards.
Any fool with huge amounts of money can be president of this country. It is no longer about service.
Why can't we move these people out and find somebody who can make
the right decision for the country. You're the experts, you can tell me.
We have to change the way we arrive at our leaders. We have to.
Organized crime.
Disputing the AFC Leopards elections to let the elected team continue with the team's preparations ahead of the new season. Masiga and former football legends spoke during the requiem mass of late Joe Kadenge.
For Gor Mahia to thrive, AFC Leopards has to be thriving, and vice versa. Allow whoever was elected to finalize the process. AFC Leopards, instead of now preparing for the league, is not doing that. And as I say, to honor Mzee, let's get our act together.
So wale watu wachache wanatuvuta nyuma, tutawaambia ni mwamko mpya. Hii timu inataka kucheza mpira kwa kiwanja. Hatutaki kucheza mpira kwa makotini. Tulimaliza uchaguzi na sasa ni wakati wa kutengeneza timu. Timu iko Mumias pre-season na tunajiandaa kuanza league tarehe 1 huko Kakamega tukicheza na Homeboys.
We hope the warring factions come together for a better Ingwe, and God will still come out tops, I suppose. Moving on, Eddie Nketiah struck late to hand Arsenal a 2-1 victory against Bundesliga champions Bayern Munich in the International Champions Cup opener in Los Angeles. Bayern looked to be on course for a draw in
terrorism and corruption. They're really siblings.
We don't need 10 cases. We just need 2 cases done properly, and it will serve a lesson.
Justice can only be found if I prosecute what I have claimed, bring the evidence, and say this man is guilty.
AM Live, every weekday morning on NTV.
Na imekuwa ni ada, desturi na mazoea kwa Wakenya wengi kula, kulala, kuvaa na kupiga gumzo la siasa.
Masuala ya biashara, uvumbuzi, teknolojia na ubunifu. Muhimu ni
hela. Wajua pesa zilivunja milima. Vipi uachwe nyuma na uwezo unao?
Maendeleo ya binadamu au taifa hayawezekani bila afya.
Ever captain and led the Eredivisie club to a domestic league and cup double last season, as well as taking them to the UEFA Champions League semi-finals, in which
hayako tukutane kwa mijadala kuhusu afya bora.
Kama jamii tuna mengi ya kujivunia katika kila nyanja. Maishani kuna mitindo, desturi na hali tofauti za kufaana na kufanana.
Mwisho wa wiki ni mikiki. Iwe viwanjani au majukwaani, burudani halikosekani. Na unapofurahia mikiki, upo udaku sasa. Ilishaeleweka na bado kitaendelea kueleweka.
Everyone has a desire. Some desire.
Who placed a stake of only 100 shillings on 8 teams on his bet slip managed to get all his selections correct. The gaming firm currently sponsors one of Kenya's top professional golfers, that is David Waku, based at Golf Park, Nairobi. BetLion launched its operations in Kenya last year and holds a jackpot worth 350 million shillings, won correctly by predicting 20 games with 100 shillings entry. The firm also operates in Uganda. Well, that's the sports. A lot more in our subsequent bulletins, but back to you, Ken.
Thanks, Brian. And where is your money at tomorrow for the finals?
That match is against Senegal and Algeria. I give it to Algeria.
You give it to Algeria. Yep. Algeria, Senegal, and Kenya played Algeria.
In the same group C. So we faced a tough side.
So number 3. Kenya was number 3. Thanks very much for watching NTV News Update. My name is Ken Mijungu. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and keep it NTV.